So you beautiful people, in today's video I'm going to do my best to explain to you why I believe Call of Duty Modern Warfare is the most manufactured Call of Duty game that we have ever played as a Call of Duty community. Now the community clearly has a lot of complaints about the game in regards to what the devs have chosen to do. This isn't nothing new. The Call of Duty community always has something to complain about, which is the reality of things, but usually there is a just reason behind them, however they portray across in their expressions. In Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, one-man army was a serious problem, but because Infinity Ward was disbanded, that never got rectified. In Call of Duty Black Ops, Ghost was a big problem because it made the gameplay slow, and it did have a campy feel to it, but in comparison to Modern Warfare, that game was a lot more fun in my personal opinion. In Black Ops 2, David Vonderhaar pretty much had to go into hiding because he chose to nerf the sniper rifles, which was a massive uproar in the sniper community. And in moving forward to games like Infinite Warfare, that game just showed how tired the community was of the boost movements, and it never really got a fair chance from its inception. And finally onto Call of Duty World War II, where the game was totally changed in April and revamped altogether because the division system just didn't sit right with the community. So fast forward into Modern Warfare, and we have several complaints about the game. I've even done a video myself where I've called the developers incompetent because it seems like we're not being listened to. But I think we're not being listened to for a very sinister reason, in fact. And although we might sit here and think, wow, these are really bad developers, I just think they're being really clever with what they're trying to do. Now, we might not see that, and that's why I'm doing this video. So let's go through everything that I think has been manufactured. Let's talk about the maps. There's no secret there was a massive interview that sparked a lot of outrage by Joe Seacoat, where he referred to the maps being more pauperous because he didn't want newer players to get punched in the mouth starting out in the game. And this is very evident, especially in the maps where it's a more 10v10 orientated team deathmatch game. There are plenty windows, plenty what I would refer to as no man land points, where if you try and run across them, you're going to get picked off somewhere, and it makes even the most skilled player have difficulty in navigating the maps because there are so many different types of angles that you have to check, which it's almost physically impossible in reality. So you will get checked and put in your place every now and again, and this is what stops people from going for nuclear streaks, and why a lot of people migrated over to ground war to try and obtain these sorts of things instead of doing them into the traditional places that they usually do them. Also, while we're speaking of maps, think about the spawns. How often do you actually have to physically go into somebody's spawn with several other teammates before the spawn will flip in this game? I've never encountered something like this in Call of Duty. And then when the game does finish, you can't seem to play the same team again. So even if you have a bad game with a team that spawned and camped in the spawn and they go to victory, you can't even seek revenge because it won't put you in the same lobby as these people more times than not. Moving on to footsteps. As you notice, they are very loud. You can hear them from all angles, and this is added to why the game plays in such a campy manner, as people would say. It's very slow. People come across and say it's tactical, but it's just not tactical. Sitting in a corner isn't tactical at all. It's just not playing the game. It makes thumbsticks redundant in my personal opinion. And just to compound the footsteps factor, dead silence is a periodic thing. We've always had dead silence as a perk throughout the history of Call of Duty. Ninja, it's been referred to also, and this is for people who want to stealthily play around the map. Now that's been totally nullified, and the best you can do is to put tuned up on and use dead silence, and periodically have the ability to find people and kill them. There is an incentive. If you do kill someone, your timer pretty much resets or is boosted, but it's physically impossible to play this game in that aggressive manner to keep those kills going. Sometimes you have to slow it down. So that is something that I feel has been manufactured also. Moving forward, and this kind of adds on to the footsteps and dead silence and just being unable to go around the map in a manner which you would as a stealth killer, and that's doors. If you've noticed, doors are pretty much everywhere in this game, and they make a lot of noise when you go through them. A lot of noise, which alerts the enemy, so even if you want to be stealthily, you almost can't. I'll give you a perfect example of a map that gives away your position on purpose, and that's Piccadilly. If you've noticed, every time you go into one of the shops, you will set off one of the alarms, which is for people who have taken stuff out of the store with a magnet on. Now, if you're entering a store with no bags, then you're not going to have a magnet, so them things would not go off. They are deliberately there to impede your progress as a player, irrespective of your skill set. Moving forward, you have to choose between the likes of a UAV and a counter UAV. You can't have both. Now, it's been traditional for most players who are very aggressive, who are very dominant in their use of the minimap, to use a UAV, a counter UAV, and then an advanced UAV to go for that nuclear streak. Again, this has been manufactured so you can't do that. You have to make the choice between the UAV or the counter UAV. And speaking of the advanced UAV, the advanced UAV is almost the top kill streak in this game. Now, classically, it's been used as a mid-tier, around about 8 to 9 kills streak to help you obtain the more powerful streaks in the game. It's almost redundant in this game. I've never ever seen anybody use it unless they have got it from a care package, and I've had it on as a kill streak, for several occasions to try and obtain it, and it's not as powerful as it's been in previous games. It doesn't last very long, and it's not as effective as it personally I think it could be for such a big kill streak. So not a lot of people run it. I would love to. And talking of the advanced UAV, that obviously is going to bring us onto the minimap, which has been a massive talking point for the community for a long period of time. The minimap isn't what it has traditionally been, and it's again to stop skilled players using that to their advantage. It's dumbing down the skill gap, it's breaking everything down so everybody gets a chance in this game and there isn't no creams of the crop. And naturally, speaking of that, it's going to bring me to skill-based matchmaking. Skill-based matchmaking is something that has been proven in this game. Obviously, tests have been limited, but Drifter and Exclusive Ace have shown there is a direct correlation specifically to do with your last 5 games in what type of lobbies you will be putting. Now, if you're putting the same lobbies as players who with the same KD as you constantly, it's just going to put eventually everyone down to a 1 KD. So again, this is manufacturing the experiences. Dr. Disrespect said something that I really liked, and it really resonated well with me, because it's the way of the world. You have to have wolves and you have to have sheep, and there are a lot of people out there at the moment who are trying to do their best to make the world equal for everybody, but the reality is that's just not how the world works as such, and I don't see why it should be the way that computer games work either, because it does take the fun out of it in the long run. I watched an interesting video also by Prestige is Key, where he has brought stuff from the shop and openly admits that he believes there's no statistical facts here, so it's just a feeling, and I will put that out there, but he felt, and he did show in the video, that his lobbies seem to be filled with people who were, I'm not going to say rubbish at the game, but were definitely newer and had less of a clue as to what to do in the game. And that goes back to the pattern that was discovered on Reddit a few years ago, which basically showed that if players brought certain weapons, they'd probably be put in certain lobbies which would show these weapons to certain people, show these camos to certain people to try and advertise them, and these lobbies were likely to be easier. Ghost is a sticking point for a lot of us, and that is the old Ghost that has been developed to be better, which was first exposed in Black Ops, where it didn't show you on the map, and it became a serious problem, so much so that Trakky took it on their own backs to develop a Ghost that would show people who were static for a long period of time on the minimap. And that is how it should be. That is someone innovating as a developer to show there's a problem with this perk. What can we do to make it more fair? So I find it very surprising that we've reverted back to that ghost that was clearly a problem that was resolved by developers in the past. But again, it's down to manufacturing the experience, ensuring people are out there able to get kills against better players. Claymores, I don't know if you've actually noticed, Claymores, even after you've killed a player, you can kill them, be in a doorway where you've killed them, run in, they've popped it next to the doorway, and you die even though you've just watched that person perish. Again, it's a manufactured experience. Claymores should disappear as soon as that person has been nullified and respawns in the game. Well, not even respawns. As soon as you kill that person, that Claymore should disappear when they disappear also. So I find that really strange that Claymores are still affecting play and are still in play even though you've got rid of that particular person. The M4 it's obviously the most powerful gun in the game, and not necessarily most powerful, but it's the most dominant. If you miss shots with any other gun, the M4 will melt you. It's highly accurate, the fire rate is very fast, it's very easy to use, and it's no secret that it was one of the first guns you unlocked in the game. This is all for a reason. It's supposed to be the further you get in the game, the better the guns get, but for some reason, again, manufacturing, they have chose to do this with the M4. And then finally, the devs are very reluctant to listen to any feedback. If you look, you won't see them answering any of the real feedback and the real criticisms that the Call of Duty community has. They do their best to answer it politically, or they do their absolute best to avoid answering any of those things at all. And this is why I believe this is the most manufactured CODS experience we've ever had. Guys, if you want to stay on the right track, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you want to watch more from me, click this thumbnail.